This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast that takes a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we celebrate the continued success of Bates field hockey. The number 7 nationally ranked Bobcats are headed to the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. Plus, this Saturday is senior day for Bates football and the season opener for men's basketball. That's all this week on the Bates Bobcast. With the tragic events of October 25 in Lewiston still fresh on everyone's minds, the Bates field hockey team took to the field on Halloween night against their rival Bowdoin in the NESCAC quarterfinals. Wearing blue socks in honor of Lewiston and raising money through the sale of Lewiston Strong t-shirts for the Lewiston-Auburn Area Response Fund, the Bobcats won an emotional 2-1 game in double overtime over the Polar Bears, clinching the program's first appearance in the NESCAC semifinals. Although the Bobcats fell to the Williams College Eafs on a last-second goal on Saturday by a score of 2-1, they learned Sunday they've been chosen to compete in the NCAA championships for the first time in program history. Not only that, on Tuesday, head coach Dani Kogut and assistant coaches Morgan DeMann and Ian Wag were named the NESCAC coaching staff of the year. Coach Kogut joins the Bobcast to recap an emotional week for Bates field hockey. Coaching staff of the year in the NESCAC. You must be so proud of Ian and Morgan because you've been working together with them for a few years now. How's this coming together for you three?
Yeah, I think it's such an amazing honor, and I'm so proud of our staff. I think we each have our hand in something very specific with the team, and so they've each impacted the team in such big ways. Morgan in the weight room, she's done a ton of work with our team in strength and conditioning. She's also over the years done a lot of work with just everything, recruiting, filming, scouting. She's really been that right hand of the coaching staff for a number of years. And then Ian has been with the program for a number of years too, and then this year was able to come on full time, and so really took the reins of scouting opponents and coming up with that more tactical side of the game. So it's just nice that we each kind of have the thing that we do with the team, and that's gelled together really well for us.
Terrific. And then, looking at the selection show, you had the watch party there Sunday night, 10:30. I know people were obviously nervous and stuff. What was going through your mind as you're watching?
I was just hoping that I would get to have smiles with my team. They're such an amazing group, and I've been really privileged to coach them this year. And for a number of them, right, this has been like a 4 to 5 year journey, and it's something that we've talked about. How do we get there and really set our sights on what was achievable that year? Looking back 3-4 years ago, is like, okay, we're going to make this improvement this year, knowing that this was a long-term goal. So I was definitely watching the faces of the seniors as that was happening, and really just proud of them and so happy that they get to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, you mentioned long-term goal. I mean, you really had to look ahead, especially when COVID hit, right? I mean, Paige Cody, Cammie Lambert, Sarah Bussell, those three in particular had to plan out their careers knowing this could be a huge season, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just wild to think, right? If they hadn't made the decisions that they had, then we wouldn't have such 3 really, really key players with us still. So I'm glad that field hockey meant enough to them to make the decision that they did to defer. Obviously, that in itself makes us so proud that it's something that they were willing to defer one semester to come back and play one more season with us. That's like a huge deal. And I think it just speaks to the community that they've built within the team. They really love each other. It's a great group of women who super support each other, and because of that, you want to be a part of it as long as you can, right?
Absolutely. And then a week ago it was the game against Bowdoin, the NESCAC quarterfinal game, the win that was must win basically, probably to get that large bid. And have you ever experienced a field hockey game even close to that in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the way it ended?
No. No, and I think that's a moment that none of us will ever forget. I mean, you have those moments in your playing career. I certainly remember some of mine where they just stick with you forever, and I think it's the coolest feeling in the world as a coach to know that your players just got one of those moments that they'll relive and tell the story of again and again. So that was really cool.
And then, the way, obviously Bates and the field hockey team has, supported Lewiston and, our community here, right? I mean, what's that meant to see the players respond the way they have?
I mean, it's meant so much. Bates and Lewiston are one and the same, right? Like, we all share this space together. We work with each other. We're out in the community. They're coming to things on Lewiston. Folks are coming to things on campus. We're going into their school systems a lot. So I think it's just a hugely impactful moment to get to bring the community a little bit of joy. I think we're all still grieving what has happened, and I think that's going to last for a really long time. But to have that moment where we could have some joy and see the community come out like that is amazing.
I feel like the field hockey team has a lot of alumni support. It is the oldest women's sport at Bates, going back, to the 60s. And so have you heard from a lot of alums? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, they're going wild on social media and just with text messaging. But they're such an amazing group. And it's fun to have that span, even into classes in the 60s. We have a following that we were able to connect with back when we celebrated the 50th anniversary that they've stuck with us, and then up to most recent grads. So it's really fun to hear from the different generations and to hear what it means to them. And this sense of being so proud to be a Bobcat is like throughout all of them. And that's really cool.
So you get to host a tournament game. There's obviously a lot of logistics involved in that. But I mean, in terms of the team and the focus, what's the focus on this week? Here, a couple of practices before you get the host here on Wednesday.
Yeah, so I think we're just keying in on what we do well. I think at this point in the season, you know who you are as a program. You know your strengths. You know where you can gain an edge on your opponent. And so we're just keying in on those aspects of our play.
Certainly, and one of the strengths this year has been the penalty corners. I feel like, how have you been able to have so much success there? What's been the key? I know there's different plays you run and stuff without getting too specific. How have you been so successful there?
Yeah, so that's really flexibility. We change them up almost on a weekly to bi-weekly basis where we make small edits, or we try to stay unscoutable in our corners. So, and that really comes from the student athletes. They're always coming up with creative ideas of how to change a corner, how to change a lineup so that we can do what we want to do without giving away our corner.
Great, and we obviously had some all-NESCAC honorees. Anna Cody, first team. Molly Griffin got recognition, second team. Paige Cody, second team. I mean, it's cool to see a defender get an all-NESCAC second team like that because the defense has been pretty stout, I feel like.
Yeah, they've been incredible all season. Molly back there as a senior with Amanda as a junior. The two of them have just worked so well together, and then Kylie's really found her voice in cage this year. So we have such a strong defensive group back there, and it's awesome to have Molly get recognized at the all-conference level because it's really hard to get people on those awards. So we're really happy for her because she's just been rock solid for us. Yeah.
And then I touched on Anna Cody, the first team selection. It has been such an amazing year for her. Some incredible games where she just kind of took over. What are you seeing? Kind of a breakthrough season, right?
Yeah, it really has been a breakthrough season for her. I think that she is a player who can really take control of a game. She has so much energy. She always plays. She plays to win, and she never gives up on the ball. And I think that makes a difference, and people can feed off of that. So she's definitely deserving of that award. We're super proud of her for getting it. And yeah, she's been pretty dominant in the midfield for us.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on the season so far we haven't got to talk about yet heading into NCAA tournament here?
No, I mean, I just keep saying it's like for our coaching staff is like almost a decade-long thing, right? Yeah. And then for our players, it's a multi-year thing. And we've just, to our first years, our sophomores, we just recruited, I think, incredible people who have just added so much to the program and have bought into this idea of tradition that the upperclassmen have built. And so it's just a really cool thing to see it all come together.
Bates Field Hockey hosts Johnson and Wales University in the first round of the NCAA tournament Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. They are there in part due to their win last Tuesday over Bowdoin, which culminated in Maria Femia's double overtime game-winning goal. Here's how it sounded on the Northeast Sports Network.
Anna Cody gets around Coates-er, 2-on-1. Anna Cody gets by. Femia! Save Arsenal! Rebound! It's Femia! She scores! Maria Femia puts the city of Lewiston on her back! And the Bates Bobcats, for the first time in program history, are going to the NESCAC semifinals! And the Bates students storm the field to celebrate with the field hockey team.
And Maria Femia is our female Bobcat of the week. Take us back a week ago, right, against Bowdoin, NESCAC quarterfinal. As you've had time to reflect on that game-winning goal, since we talked after the game, what are some maybe thoughts you've had about where that ranks perhaps in your field hockey career? Is it number one?
Probably number one in all of my sports career.
Yeah.
To be home with such a crowd and to also score with someone in my grade, Anna Cody, was a really great feeling. It was a really great end to the game.
Could you ever imagine fans storming the field at the end of one of your games like that?
No, I was literally in shock. I was facing out and just saw everyone coming, and it was really exciting.
And then we had another exciting moment on Sunday with the selection show. What were your nerves like coming into that?
I was super nervous.
Yeah.
Obviously, nobody wants this season to end, and it's super weird to get an at-large bid, not really know where our season stands, and just sitting there waiting for our name to be called was really exciting to be in that position, but definitely nerve-wracking.
And then your reaction when you saw Bates up on the screen there.
I could believe it, but I also almost couldn't believe it. I was so excited. I can't wait to keep playing. I can't wait to get more seasons. So
We've got the game Wednesday here.
yes.
Under the lights again. What's it like to host these types of, big time postseason games? I mean, it's hard to match the atmosphere we had a week ago, but we just might, right?
We might. I don't know if anything will feel like that Bowdoin game, but really exciting to be home, exciting to be a part of history, hosting one of the first NCAA games. I'm just super excited.
So this team, what makes it so special in your opinion? What really has made this season so great in terms of what elements this team brings to the table every day?
Yeah, this team is really as close as it gets. I think a lot of teams say they're a family, but when it comes down to it, we really mean it. And we don't just show up for each other on the field, but everywhere, when it comes to presenting in class or just helping one another out. I really feel like every teammate is really there for one another, and it just makes us that much closer and better on the field.
Now, obviously, you were in the NESCAC semifinals there against Williams. That was a close one, a tough one, certainly. What were some lessons learned maybe from that game the team might be applying moving forward here?
I think that we really learned about how to settle our nerves early on in the game. One of our strengths is taking control of the game early on and really setting that pace. And I think never being in that position before, we struggled to do that on Saturday. And ultimately, it didn't fall our way, but we've talked a lot and know that we got here for a reason and there's no reason to be nervous. So to just calm those nerves and play our game.
Great. And then I guess for you personally, how have you seen your game grow this year? What have you been working on and to allow you to have, the success you've had?
I think for my personal success this year, I've really just worked a lot on being confident on ball, which the whole team has had to grow in, and having that confidence to know I can take anyone on and I can take a shot, and it just helps us to execute and play calmer so much on the field.
Cool news we've had a break today is our coaching staff got named the coaching staff of the year in the NESCAC. How cool is that to see for you, and what's it like been working with Ian and Morgan and Dani all year?
It is so exciting to see them get that award. I really can't think of anybody else that deserves it more. I'm so happy for them. I'm so proud to be coached under them. They're such a collaborative unit with one another and with all of us, and we credit all of our success to them.
Terrific. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on the NCAA tournament game we have coming up here in about 24 hours, really?
Just that I hope everyone can come down and see some history be made.
6 o'clock, Wednesday, Johnson and Wales versus Bates at Campus Avenue Field. Maria Femia, Female Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Aaron.
The only other teams in action last week were the volleyball and football teams. Volleyball defeated St. Joseph's 3-0 on Wednesday and fell 3-0 to Williams in the first round of the NESCAC tournament on Friday. Meanwhile, the football team ran to a buzzsaw in Hartford, falling to NESCAC Power Trinity 52-7. Despite the loss, head coach Matt Coyne saw some positives from his young team and is looking forward to Senior Day this Saturday when Bates welcomes Hamilton to town for a noon kickoff. Well, Coach, as a former NESCAC player, you had to deal with playing against Trinity every year, so you knew what to expect. What do you kind of tell your team going into that game, what they could expect, and what do you think they learned from the experience?
Yeah, I think, again, we are at opposite ends of programs. I think they started 12 graduate seniors out of their 22, and obviously we lack a little bit of that experience overall. But Trinity's the pinnacle. For 25 years, they've been one of the best teams in the conference. So I think it's a lot of guys played some meaningful football in that game, and I thought we did some really good things in some areas against, what I think is one of the best teams in the conference, easily, if not the best. But I think, we ran the ball well in the first half. I thought that was very impressive to see our O-line being able to do that. And then, defensively, we knew we were in for a tough matchup just with their size and speed and ability. And, they have a quarterback that's been there forever. And, I think we did really good to hold them to a field goal right away. And then, unfortunately, we just turned the ball over on offense a couple of times and put ourselves in some bad situations. But really thought that could have been a 17 to 24-point game at halftime rather than, what it ended up being.
And then Ryan Linsky had a career high in rushing in that game, averaged about 5 yards per carry. You mentioned the offensive line blocked well. What do you see from him maybe?
He was doing really, the biggest thing from him is that he played hard through the whistle. I think he was, there was times where we wish that more people were doing what he was doing. He was fighting off a lot of tackles. He was making some good cuts, and obviously a byproduct of the O-line doing their job as well. But really, really proud of him and how he played against that defense. That's a very tough defense to run the ball against. I've gone at him for a multitude of years, and that was one of the better running performances that we've had against them.
And then defensively, Ryan Rosich had a bunch of tackles.
Yeah. Rosie did really well out there. Still missed a few, and he was upset about that after. But ultimately that's a tough offense. Their offensive line is massive. They're very good. They're well coached. And like I said, they got an experienced quarterback with some really good weapons on the outside. So it's good for us to sort of see that speed and see that championship caliber type of team, and that's what we have to aim to develop into.
So Bates has 18 seniors back for his 5th year in Liam Foley, and he played against Trinity and had a touchdown pass, was 4 of 6 on on that drive there in the fourth quarter. And so as we kind of move into senior day, tell me a little bit about Liam though, because he's a guy who knew he might not be the starter coming back, but he took that extra year here.
Yeah, and I think Liam does everything right. He's done a really good job of embracing his role while still competing. And as you see, like when he got in the game against Trinity, I think it showed right away that he knows what he's doing out there. And for him, he just continued to compete, and will compete this week in practice. I mean, I think for us, that's the biggest message that we've sent to the whole team. And I think if you ask the team, other people might not understand it, is throughout the week we compete for our spots for Saturday. So it's not like we're just picking random people to play based off of likability or not. So we're trying to win football games. So that's what we do each week, and for us, we're going to continue to do that and find the best 22 that gives us the best opportunity to win a football game.
And then with it being senior day, 18 seniors, what can you say a little bit about the senior class in terms of what the legacy they leave as we kind of build this program with a lot of younger guys coming in now also?
Yeah, that's they've had to take on a very difficult role. Obviously, getting a new coach, myself, and having to start a program and build a program, and take on leadership roles that they might not see the fruits of their labor right away. And that's a difficult process to comprehend, understand, and be motivated about, especially this year while we're still trying to find our first win. I think. But they've done a really good job of helping us develop our program, our culture, and things like that. If you look at what they did throughout the offseason last year, that will translate into this year's offseason and then into next. There's a foundation there, and it's very difficult for them to see right now. But unfortunately, that's how places are built. You have to start and build it the right way, and rely on what these seniors have done for us and the class before them as well. That will ultimately translate into the success that they will have a major part in.
And definitely, hopefully, get a W for them here on senior day against Hamilton, a team that Bates has had some success against. Hamilton has had kind of an interesting season. They've been kind of up and down. What do you see from them on tape?
They play hard. I mean, I think that they have, they obviously have good players, and then they've been, they started off a tough stretch, and then they had a couple of really, crazy wins. The Colby game they played really well, and then Tufts was a 5 overtime game. Up at Hamilton, I think that's one of those games that Tufts got trapped into, and Hamilton played really well. But they're a good team. It'll be a good matchup for us, and we feel like we need to go out there, compete, and take advantage of being at home with our seniors and obviously with our community and things like that. And it'll be a great environment. And we got to go out there and try to find a way to win.
I was going to ask about that because you had the week away, unfortunately, because of the tragedy in Lewiston, and that is not something the players are used to, kind of. And do you feel like the team is more back into the groove now, or are you still trying to come back from that a little bit?
I think we're getting back into the groove of it. I think guys are excited to play at home this week. I think this year has been very unique. There's been a lot of things that are first for me as well, but I think this week just getting back at home, getting to play for our seniors, getting to honor them for the blood, sweat, and tears they put into the program. I think that's one of the biggest things is you want to play for those guys. They only have, 11 days left right now of football. And for us, we just got to do everything we can this week to prepare and be ready to go win a football game.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Quarterback Liam Foley is one of 18 seniors the Bobcats are honoring on Saturday. He came off the bench to complete 4 of 6 passes for 68 yards and a touchdown Saturday against the Bantams. Foley took an extra year at Bates, having matriculated in 2019, only to see COVID wipe out what would have been his sophomore year. Now, in advance of senior day, he joins the Bobcast for the first time as our male Bobcat of the week.
Well, so me and Matt Connolly have both been here since 2019. During COVID, I decided to take a leave of absence in the fall semester when our season got canceled and everything was really up in the air. We didn't know if we were going to be on campus or what the deal was come the fall. So I decided to take a leave and then actually did some traveling, saw some family, did an internship with my brother, which was great. And then I just wanted to guarantee that I would have an extra football season on the back end of my career without having to enter the portal or do anything like that. And I know Matt, I believe he took a whole year off and worked. I think full time, and so I think he kind of had the same thought process there too.
So what's that been like being kind of one of the elder statesmen on the team?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's weird. I mean, when you're coming up, people always tell you, everything goes by real quick, and you just kind of have to prepare for that a little bit, but you kind of can't. And then, especially this year with having such a big freshman class of almost 40 kids, it's a lot of new people, a lot of new names, and but it's been a great experience. So I've really enjoyed getting to know the younger kids. I mean, that's one of the things I'm most happy about with coming back is just being able to, meet and build relationships with a new group of people. And another generation of football players at Bates. I think that's been really special.
Well, yeah, and we're going to have a feature in the program about, advice seniors are giving to this next generation, but let's on the Bobcast, how about you mention what you would like to say to the, or have said to the first years and incoming recruits about, building this program up?
Yeah, I mean, I think, things haven't always been easy here. I think everybody knows that. And, for me, I think that's been something that, I've really taken to heart and tried to be intentional about. And that's something that I've, kind of advocated to the team is, you have two choices when you face adversity. It's like, you can either complain about it or you can look at it as a way to improve. And I think that, that's the only way that you can actually, go about overcoming the adversities is by taking it, head on and being intentional about what you do and looking at things as a way to grow and a way to get better. And not everybody has the opportunity to be under pressure and to play and perform in front of other people. And there's a lot of growth and a lot of strain that occurs during that. And I think it's great to be able to do that.
Tell me a little bit about growing up in South Florida, right? How did you first get involved with football? How did you first get interested in the sport? Obviously, it's a football hotbed down there. I know that.
Right, yeah. So, my dad kind of had me playing a bunch of different sports when I was younger for, maybe a season or two. Growing up, I really wasn't a good athlete at all, which was pretty tough, pretty embarrassing. The one thing that I could do was I've always, for whatever reason, had a pretty good arm. And so that was just something that when I started playing football, my dad was like, how about you try playing quarterback? Like, it's something that you'd be able to do. And so I was like, all right, I mean, there's nothing, I'm not fast, I'm not quick, like I'm not very strong. Like, this is one thing I can do. And so I got started with that. And that's a great environment. I think I attribute a lot of my work habits to growing up down there. I think it's a really competitive environment with a lot of people that care about football and a lot of people that really, really work hard to get better at it. And I think that environment is just that's where I learned that the people that are on your team aren't necessarily the people that are the most talented around you, and you really just have to acknowledge that and work even harder, even if you're the best person on your team.
And then coming up to Massachusetts for high school, was there a big transition?
Yeah. So that was tough. That was admittedly tough. I mean, I moved up here when I was 14. My dad is originally from the area. And so, getting to high school as a 14-year-old and, leaving all your friends that you've grown up with basically your whole life was really, really hard. Yeah. It was really hard. And moving to a small town that you didn't really know that many people other than some of the family that was around was very difficult. And trying to assimilate onto a team as a freshman and, also simultaneously taking on a leadership role was extremely difficult for me and something that I struggled with. But again, it's I'm happy to have gone through that and overcome it.
And then when you were in high school, when you're kind of looking at colleges, where you might want to go, what made Bates the place for you?
Yeah, I think, I felt like coming out of high school, I really didn't think that I was, the greatest recruit. I thought I had pretty good film, but overall I wasn't really sure, what my options truly were. I think, I was fairly under-recruited, but what set Bates apart was, A, the education that this place offers, and B, I really felt at home. I felt like the players here, when I visited, really, really cared. The staff really cared about me, believed in me, and felt like I could be someone who contributes. And that's what sold me on Bates.
And for you got into the game this past week, got a touchdown pass there against Trinity. For you, throughout your career, you kind of had to be waiting to be called upon a little bit. I mean, I know that can be tough for a quarterback. As a quarterback, you want reps. You want to be out there every week with your receivers. How have you been able to kind of be that guy who's ready when, your name is called?
It's tough coming off the bench. I think anybody at any position in probably any sport could tell you that it's not the easiest thing. You get thrown into a game and everyone else for the most part is acclimated to it, so it's not easy. But I think for me, I've had to take a lot of pride in my preparation, a lot of pride in mental reps. Doing a lot of visualization, seeing things before you actually get out there, so that you feel like you're ready to go once you get on the field. For me, that comes in the form of working hard during the summer and in the rest of the off season, building confidence, and just staying ready to go regardless of where you're at on the depth chart.
And then take us through your touchdown pass to a first year there, Hobbs.
Yeah, well, first, I definitely want to shout out my offensive line. I've played a couple series in the last 2 games, haven't been touched once. They did a phenomenal job while I was on the field the whole time. Again, didn't get touched by anybody. And so, they really made that happen. They made some great blocks to let some pass plays develop. Let our running backs break loose a few times, and on that play, that was just a fake outside run to the left and kind of a naked boot back across. We had Alex Suni coming down across the line of scrimmage in the flat, and he pulled the defender out of the way, and then Nolan was just kind of running across the back line, and he was basically just free. So I was just happy I got the ball there. When I threw it, I was worried I was going to overthrow it, just because he was so wide open. That's the last thing you want to do is miss something like that. But he's a big target, and he went up and made a play. So
excellent. And then you got 2 games left here. Senior day coming up. What do you think the emotions are going to be like beforehand here?
Yeah, it's definitely weird that it's senior day, and it's not the last game, and obviously that comes, on the because of some extremely unfortunate circumstances, and I think we all realize that and understand that. But at the same time, from a football perspective, I'm really happy to have 2 games left and to have another week, just to keep playing the sport and keep having fun with my teammates during practice and during the games. And but it sure is. It's very surreal. I've been playing the sport since I was about 10 years old, so like 12 years now, and it's crazy that this is now coming down to the last few days. But just trying to make the most of it and enjoy it.
And also for the seniors, these 2 games are, winnable, for lack of a better word. Both these teams, Hamilton and Williams, are, somewhat in the bottom half of the standings. I'm sure that's a big opportunity for the program to just kind of get some momentum going forward, right? And leave, with a good taste, I suppose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I see it is, if we win, obviously it helps. Of course, it helps the team in general. That's the goal. Every day, every week, every time we come out on the field is to win. But the stratification of what can happen when we win is huge. For us as seniors going out on a high note, there's nothing that we want more. And I would love to leave these freshmen after having a tough season with a lot of them having to play in roles that they probably shouldn't have to on a different team, and going through a lot of adversity, really leave them with a good taste in their mouth and a lot of momentum going into the offseason so that they can build on that.
As a senior, when you look at the first years and obviously the trial by fire, right, I would describe it this year, how do you see like where their attitudes at in terms of like, will this be good long term? Hopefully, you think?
Yeah, it definitely will.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the easiest thing. Again,
Right.
I mean, coming out as a freshman, especially depending on where you played in high school, it can be a really different environment. But I think it's definitely good for them. It's good for the program. I mean, just giving kids the real experience that you just can't, no matter what you do, you can't replicate it in practice, coming out and playing on Saturdays in front of a crowd against an opponent you haven't, matched up against. So I think it's great for them. I think it's really preparing them well. And, regardless of the good and the bad, they're going to come out better on the other side of it.
Do you remember kind of a welcome to the NESCAC moment for you when you were younger in the program?
Yeah, I do actually, vividly. So couple of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
My second game, my freshman year, we played Middlebury, who was ended up being the NESCAC champ. And so we were playing them at home. And, so we had 3 quarterbacks in the roster. We had myself as the third, Jack Bryant, who's second, and Brendan Costa, who was the first. And so that week, unfortunately, Jack got very sick and ended up missing a lot of the season as a result. And so he was out. So I ended up backing up Brendan as, an 18-year-old true freshman, not knowing anything about anything. And right before halftime, we ran a speed option to the right. I remember it. Brendan ran it. He got smoked by a linebacker and got knocked out of the game. And so all of a sudden, I was the one that had to go in. So I went in after halftime, and that was a nerve-wracking experience. I mean, we were running the simplest calls and just not really sure what was going on. And I think there was one moment where we got into a 3rd and long. And our running back went to pick up an outside linebacker who was blitzing and went to try to cut him, so he dove at his knees, and the kid just hopped right over him and sacked me. And I was like, I've never seen that in my life. And then then the next week, Brendan was still out, and I ended up, so I got my first start against Wesleyan, where Coach Coyne was the defensive coordinator
Right.
at the time. And so that was really a welcome to a college football moment. And, first play, I got smoked by Nick Helbig on a sprint out, who's now at Wake Forest.
Right.
And, and so that game it never got the chance to start well. And so, that was a tough introduction to college football, yeah.
And then how do you kind of like, moving forward from that, kind of learn from it, I guess, and make adjustments? I mean, obviously you were kind of throwing the fire before you were ready, but like how'd you kind of grow from that, maybe?
Yeah, I think the first thing was realizing, like, all right, that's probably about as bad as it gets.
Right.
It's not going to get worse than this.
Yeah.
You survived that. It wasn't the end of the world. The sun still rose, the next day. And so just kind of taking it with a grain of salt and understanding that there's still a lot of room to improve, and not everything's on me, even though sometimes it feels like it if things are going wrong. And just really, again, good learning experiences.
So as a senior now, I got to ask about your future plans, right?
Right.
I'm sure everyone asks you that, but just what are your thoughts on post Bates?
Yeah, right now I've been just applying to a lot of jobs, but I'm trying to get into like corporate human resources within like the financial services sector, and so I've just been doing a lot of networking, with that, trying to talk to a lot of Bates alum and people within that field, which has been great. I mean, I've been blown away by the amount of alumni support from Bates alumni in being willing to help me. I mean, I've had the opportunity to talk to people that are extremely high up in their companies, and as someone who's not even a college graduate yet, it almost makes no sense why these people would give me the time of day. But they're willing to do that because, it's a really strong, tight-knit community here at Bates. And, so I've been really, really grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, any other thoughts you want to share about our final 2 games of the season coming up here, starting Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all just excited. I think every week brings a new opportunity. And like you said, I mean, these 2 games are certainly winnable games. I mean, I always take the opinion, I think everyone else does, that every game is winnable. Some of them are, probably more winnable than others, right? But I think for us, it started this morning with our morning meeting, game plan meeting, and it'll continue with our practice this evening. And I just think, as long as we take things kind of, one day at a time and one step at a time, and are intentional about what we do, and give great effort and attention to detail, like, you compound that over time, you can really do a lot. And a lot can change in 1 week. That's the other thing, too, that I've learned. A lot can change in 1 week.
Especially when you're in front of the home fans finally again,
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of emotions, and I think, we're pumped for it. Our staff's pumped for it. From what I've heard, our alumni are also pumped, and I hope the community is, too. We want to support them and represent them really well.
Excellent. Liam Foley, Male Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Winter sports are almost here. In fact, the men's basketball team opens its season this Saturday at 2 p.m. when the Bobcats visit Clark. Head coach John Furbush previews the season. I got to ask, because when you graduate someone like Steph Baxter, who scored so many points for you, was really the focus of the offense for a number of years, now you got to have a different approach probably, right? What's this team looking like this year in terms of where the points are going to come from?
Well, I think it's going to be primarily from our defense there, and I think we have been so heavily focused on how to score the last couple of years with somebody as talented as Steph, and now our mentality has kind of been more our defense is going to be our best offense. We're going to get out and run in transition, and I think that we just have really good depth at every position in every class. So I envision that there's not going to be one guy that you can stop. I think there's going to be a lot of different players that have the ability to score at any given time.
Great, and then your senior captain is Simon McCormick, and what makes him, I guess, captain material and such a good leader, obviously out of Coyne High School, right?
Yeah, he's the best. I think if you asked anyone on campus outside of athletics, let alone inside of athletics, they would have incredible things to say about this young man. And post-pandemic, he's just been an incredible leader. He came into the program in the middle of the pandemic, and he's just seen a lot of adversity in his time here, and he's just completely embodies what I would define as Bobcat basketball. I'm having trouble challenging him in practice because every time he does something, it's like so blatantly positive that I'm trying to find the things that he's doing wrong. But he's just a great leader and an incredible member of the program.
Excellent. And another senior, Devin Harris, who really has shown some intriguing flashes through the years. As a rim protector. He's a high flyer. He can throw it down. What's the next step in his development? So he can finish his college career strong this season.
Yeah, no, I think he's this has really been his first clean summer transitioning into basketball season. So he's healthy. I think he's in his best, shape-wise, physically. And, anytime you get experience like he got last year being our starting five for the bulk of the season, there's just a ton of growth there. So I think he won't be shocked in our first game this weekend. And I just think when he has it all together, he's a tough matchup. I just don't always know when that's coming. So hopefully it'll be on game one this Saturday.
And you have some younger bigs, right, who may see some time?
Yeah, we have two. Well, there's Steve Ward, obviously another senior who's been a pretty good.
He's 6'6", right? But he plays like a big guy.
Yeah, I think 6'6" might even be generous, but he plays a lot bigger than he is, and so he'll be a great force down low for us this winter again. Yeah. And then our young guys, Shawer Mayen, sophomore, he's had an incredible offseason. He's just a physically imposing human being, even though he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And then first years, Babakar Pui and Ben Leach have also had a good early preseason, so I wouldn't be surprised if either of them get a nod at some point over the next couple weeks. I
know you have obviously some shooters like Brady Coyne and also Elliot Kravitz, who definitely had some moments. Peter Sy Hodges, another guard who definitely had some flashes last year. They were all first years. Now they're sophomores. What are you looking to see year one, year two?
Yeah, those guys need to make a jump for us to be successful. I mean, they both Elliot and Brady are, I would consider dead-eye shooters that can do a little bit more than shoot. Mm-hmm. And I think Pete Sy Hodges has made an incredible jump in his offseason. He's shooting the ball a lot better, but he's also a good driver and an incredible defender and rebounder. So, those three guys should be, really key pieces to our puzzle this year for sure.
And then, your first game, obviously at Clark, a tough opponent, I know. What are some things you're looking out for just in general in the first game of the season before you host Bowdoin here next week?
No, it's this is actually the first game in my, I think, 16 years where our opponent is also playing their first game. Okay. Thankfully, they returned most of their guys from last year who are all very good. And so we have an idea of what we think they'll probably do scout-wise. So... but we're going into it blind a little bit. But I just want to see these guys play with confidence and urgency. I mean, we have we have skill, we have talent, we have athleticism, we have strength, and there's a lot of unknowns right now because we were so reliant on someone else last year offensively. But I think if we just compete and play hard and do the little things that we've been preaching the last 2 weeks, we're going to be in the game regardless of how we score the ball.
Another rookie we haven't mentioned, but he's out of South Portland, right? Jalen Jackson?
Yeah, no, Jalen was a late addition to the program and has been a pleasant surprise so far. And so, yeah, our point guard play, there were some question marks coming into the season, but he'll be a fairly nice addition to the rotation at some point if he continues to progress the way he has so far.
Great. Well, any other players you want to mention, or any other thoughts you wanted to mention about the upcoming season we haven't going to talk about yet?
Yeah, I definitely want to mention Trace Gotham, senior.
Sure, of course.
He's I hope the swag he's currently playing with in practice continues to shine this weekend. He's just had everything seems to be clicking in his head, and the game's getting a lot slower for him, and he's just got some really good confidence about him. So, when you have 4 seniors that are in the rotation, I think that helps. And when you have a senior captain in Simon, that it makes my job easier as a coach to not have to worry about so many leadership things. He's taken that on and been incredible in that role. And there's a few other guys that I think are making a case for themselves. I mean, I wouldn't call it a problem. It's more of a situation when you have guys that are making a case for themselves in the rotation. So we still got 4 days of practice to figure out who the heck we're going to play this weekend.
Sounds good, Coach Furbush. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, we'll recap, hopefully, the first 3 rounds of the NCAA championships for the field hockey team. Plus, we'll continue our winter sports previews with women's basketball, swimming, and squash. All that and more next time on the Bates Bobcast.